Today's guest has built an $800 million fund starting at 18 years old.
You don't get it. My job is very simple. I'm here to make as much money for my investors as possible.
Starting from nothing, Harry has become a world-class investor, invested in over 13 different billion-dollar founders, and created a multi-million-dollar media empire with his podcast 20VC.
There's nothing I can ever think of other than winning.
In this podcast, you'll see what it takes to build a multi-billion-dollar startup.
I've interviewed pretty much every decacorn founder there is, and all decacorn founders share two traits, literally all of them. Number one is they have a superiority complex. It kind of is married with this deep inferiority complex within themselves, that they're not moving fast enough, they're not achieving what they should be pushing harder, they should be pushing more. And this is another thing that people kind of misunderstand. $1 billion is not enough. $10 billion is what you need.
So where did this start? And how did you become one of the best investors in the world?
And then I fell in love with technology.
Yeah.
This was the days when, do you remember the white MacBook where it was like the hard shell, thick, and the Apple came on? It was
the sound.
Oh, it was beautiful. And we've lost this incredible product design, I feel, in a lot of the technology that we have today. And that was just so encapsulating for me and just beautiful. I fell in love with technology. And so I had these two loves, which was technology and finance. And then I saw The Social Network, and I saw Peter Thiel invest in Facebook with Clarion
Which is a
Capital.
very small scene in the movie. It's
No one remembers it.
Yeah.
No one remembers
Yeah.
it. Everyone was inspired to be an entrepreneur. I saw pain, continuous shit, and I was like, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Little did I know, media is pretty much that. But I saw this scene, and I was like, shit, I can blend finance and technology in one. Right. And be a venture capitalist. And in London at the time, this was 2008.
So you were 15 years old or so.
Or 13.
You're 13, younger even.
Yeah, literally. That didn't exist. VC was so tiny. I mean, if you said VC in London then, it was completely unknown. And so I read everything I could on venture. I read Brad Feld, Roger Ehrenberg, David Hornick, Marc Suster, all of whom are really good friends actually now, which is really amazing. Funny thing actually, I emailed all of them and all of them responded.
Cold emailed.
Yeah, cold emailed, and we can get to that.
We will.
And so I learned from them. And that was when there wasn't much venture content. So that was all there really was. And I remember I was very fat and I lost weight walking to college. I was kicked out of school for having bulimia. And yes, that school should deeply regret kicking me out because now I'm not giving you any donations. But I was walked to school every day to lose weight. And I listened to podcasts, and there was none other than, honestly, Marc Andreessen or Peter Thiel. And I was like, amazing people, huge respect, but there's so many more great people. I'm going to interview them, and I'm going to start a business doing that.
Can you talk to me about at high school, you saw this really pretty girl, you decide to lose this weight, you have this self-esteem at the time, that's insanely tough. And we talked about nurture and nature a little bit. How has that impacted you until this day? And can you talk a little bit about that?
So I've interviewed pretty much every decacorn founder there is, and all decacorn founders share two traits, literally all of them. Number one is they have a superiority complex. They just inherently, and it sounds awfully arrogant, but they inherently believe that they are better, that they're more talented, that they're more capable, that they can do what others can't. And then it kind of is married with this deep inferiority complex within themselves, that they're not moving fast enough, they're not achieving what they should be pushing harder, they should be pushing more. And it's this deep masochism or sadism towards themselves, which is deeply psychologically scarring for yourself. But it drives you to be better and better. And I sadly have both in spades. And I think really it's just a lack of self-love in any way. I saw this girl when I was 16, 17 in my school, and I thought, wow, you're the most beautiful thing in the world, but you're never going to like me if I look like Augustus Gloop. I'm going to lose weight. And anything that I do, I will overdo. I think moderation is largely for cowards. And so I bluntly hit the gym very hard and stopped eating. And within a 5-month period, I lost 40 to 50 kilos. I mean, it went from 125 to 75, 50 kilos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brutal.
But do you know what? Effective.
Unhealthy, some might say, but it worked. I mean, it worked, right? It was
incredibly unhealthy.
Yeah. But you've talked about being addicted. I think maybe the best founders are obsessive and addicted personalities. Is that where that started, do you think? That sort of all or nothing?
Yeah, it was. The thing I like to say to a lot of teenagers, kids that ask me advice today, is I was a really mediocre kid. I didn't excel at anything. Nothing. I was B in everything. Right. In sports, there was one football season where I scored more own goals than goals.
Not great.
It's terrible. It's terrible. But the fundamental point is greatness sparks from somewhere, anytime. And, that was really when the addictive mind kicked in for me. And that was my first real addiction. I've had many more, which we can go into. And it really taught me that I could do anything I set my mind to. Yeah. Your mind always gives up before your body does. And so if I can control my mind, there is nothing that my body cannot do, which is why I've run several 100-mile runs. My knees are those of a 90-year-old. I have psoriasis badly. But your mind is the most important thing to control. And I really learned that then. And although it was very difficult and probably very hard for my mother to see, it really was very important because it showed me that I could do anything. Right. I think a really hard thing for parents is you want your children to suffer, but you want them to have a tolerable amount of suffering. I don't know if it was a tolerable amount of suffering for my mother, but it really helped me see that there was nothing that I couldn't do. Yeah.
Can you take me to one of those morning runs? Because I know you used to run in the dark, so nobody could see you, or you're a little bit ashamed, and you listen to this song specifically, Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. Yeah. Do you ever? How does that translate into Harry of today? Being someone who's gone through that. How does that translate into how you operate your business or run your life today?
I mean, I think it's yes. I mean, every morning I used to get up at 6 or 5:30. Everyone used to really get up at 7:30, and I used to run in the dark around this cricket field because then no one would see you. And I was deeply ashamed. I used to get to all sports things in half an hour early because they'd make you do the warm-ups running around the laps.
You had to warm up for the warm-up.
Yeah, and I would do it before everyone else because it was so embarrassing to be lapped so many times. And it really taught me the value of preparation and being a prepared mind. But how does it shape me today? I still have a deep inferiority complex. I don't think that we have achieved anything. And, my mother's very proud of me very nicely. But we are 1% of where we should be. I don't feel like we're doing enough. I don't feel like we're moving fast enough. And I don't think you should ever lose that. I would be deeply worried if I ever felt like we were done or we were even doing well. And I quite like doing this with you now because it kind of gives you a chance to reflect on your own thoughts. I don't think that's very easy for my team. It doesn't make me that easy to work with. Paul, one of our partners on the investing team, just said, yes, we won the deal. We beat 11 other term sheets, 14.9% secured. And I responded, why can't we get 0.1% more? Because I want 15%. I don't think that's always easy. And there's something that you have to grapple with, which is in the pursuit of perfection, it doesn't always make you easy to be around.
Knowing that's already step one, I guess. How do you don't want to accommodate for poor performers, but I'm guessing there are different ways where your team interacts with you. That's, how they prefer to work. How do you, as someone who manages and leads a company, keep the balance of pushing people really hard, but making sure to also reward them or, keep them excited?
I think when it comes to bringing people on board, you need to know whether it's a sink the boat hire or whether it's an easy hire, so to speak. And the easy hire, so to speak, you don't need to know for very long. Right. You can kind of take a flyer bet. It can be a video editor. It can be a social media manager. It can be, you name it. An investing partner, there is not one investor. We have 4 investing partners. There's not one that I haven't known for 5 years plus. One of the biggest reasons, or one of the only reasons great venture firms don't become great venture firms is because of team churn. Nothing LPs hate more than team churn. And quite rightly so. And so I was very, very deliberate, 5 years of knowing them before we worked together. And that was really, really important. I think you see people in increments over time. I've seen Paul, one of our partners I mentioned, become a father for the first time, for the second time. He's seen me have challenges with my mother's MS, with other personal things, breakups with girlfriends, you name it. And you learn about people in increments. I'm very ADHD, so forgive me, and you're reining me in all these different directions. But Marc Suster wrote this brilliant piece, and it's true. It's lines, not dots. We have been very successful fundraising, and we have because I understand the importance of relationship building over time. Every VC is well, not every, but 90% of VCs are very bad at fundraising for many reasons. But one of the biggest reasons is because they get to a fundraise moment or when they want to fundraise and they go, I should speak to LPs now. I speak to 2 LPs every single week who are not invested in my fund. And I say at the end of each one, again, what do you learn from media and interviewing that you take with you to fundraising? I say at the end, hey, you know what? Who are 3 that you love to hang out with and that you think I should spend time with? And they go, oh, you should speak to Sarah, Simon, and John. I'll send you an email that you can forward. Would you mind? So 2 times to 6 every single week. I have a CRM. This is in between fundraisers. We have 3-year deployment periods. I'm meeting 400. I'm putting 400 in a CRM. Every quarter we send out our update. I take out some numbers and I make it a little bit less data rich and shorter, but I send that out to every single one. And I send it out personalized with a note that says, hey, I hope your parents are still enjoying Amsterdam. Yeah. It's such a beautiful time of the year in Amsterdam. I loved going with my mother last time we did the marathon there. The conversion rate is so high when you let them follow your journey across time and it's not just, hey, we're fundraising. And also don't just send the bland email of like, hey, I'd love to update you on where we are. Right. I literally spend, normally I get up at like on this Sunday a quarter, 8 a.m. I get up, 8:30 we really start. Mm-hmm. And I will spend at least till 5 p.m. doing 400 personal emails to those LPs that aren't in the fund. It's just because another reason why people fail to succeed in this business is because they run out of capital supply. They get a chance to do 100 million into OpenAI and they've got 12 hours for it and they don't have 100 million.
And they can't.
My job is to make sure we never run out of money when great opportunities come.
That's how you've been able to go from first fund 8 million to 140 to 400 million raised all within a couple of years of each other. Incredible.
Yeah. In 3 months at a time.
Yeah.
Like, the 140 we raised in 7 days. The 400 was a little bit longer, kind of 2.5, 3 months.
Okay, still very quick for that amount of money.
Yeah, but on the 400, I raised 75 on WhatsApp. No, I didn't mean that arrogantly, but
that's just insane.
It was so important to me to build those relationships over time.
Yeah.
And I really care about those relationships. People say to me also, and I really got pissed off with this person, a journalist interviewed me the other day, and they were like, you should do more impact investing. Why aren't you caring about the planet with your investments? And I just thought, you don't get it. My job is very simple. I'm here to make as much money for my investors as possible. Like cash on cash multiple. I'm here to make as much money as possible for them. And my investors are children's hospitals. They're foundations. They're unbelievable organizations that literally pay for children's treatment who have terrible, terrible diseases. I am doing my bit by making as much money as possible.
Right.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Do you feel the need to explain yourself in those situations, or do you ever feel that you get misrepresented in those conversations? Or
I don't honestly really care so much what people think about me anymore. It's a really interesting one. Like, it used to really hurt me. It really hurt me. I used to read all the comments and get very upset. But the truth is, very rarely does someone you respect hate on you. It's always someone beneath you
right.
who is hitting up because they're jealous or because they feel you have something that they shouldn't. And no one can tell you that you're not good enough other than yourself. And even then you're wrong. And I really mean that. I think visions are one of the most dangerous things. We always told you should have a vision. Fuck visions. It's so damaging. When I started, if I had accepted my vision, I would have capped my potential so much. And so actually, I think visions set these artificial ceilings on your potential. And actually, you know what we should do? We should be micro-ambitious. We should chase very close targets with incredible fervor and not have this ridiculous any vision. Because every year, my vision unlocks a completely new layer that I never anticipated.
Right. You can't connect the dots looking backwards.
I never anticipated Project Europe, which we can talk about later.
We will, yeah.
But I never anticipated that. That is an unbelievable project, which I think will be one of the most defining chapters of my career.
Yeah. And you wouldn't have ever have done that if you had
No.
taken the job or stopped podcasting or...
No, and so when you're faced with two options, choose the option that has a higher chance of opening another door.
Yeah.
What do I mean by that? You've got two options tonight. You can actually go and rest up at home and have that Deliveroo and chill out. Or you can go to that drinks party that may not lead to something, but you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's a pain and you're tired. But it could also have that person that changes your career. And I just always think, always take the option which has another door opening.
Yeah. You've talked about that as well when, you know, you're sitting in that situation where you're at home and you're like, should I get some food or should I go out? And thinking through the consequences, the after effects of what your decision is going to make, and not just purely in that moment. And then that sort of helps put it in perspective.
You know the other massive mistake that people make? They wait until the next day to send the email. And you're like, what the fuck is he talking about now? And I'm talking about, you go to that dinner, okay, and there's 12 people at the dinner. After the dinner, I will literally, in my head, visualize the table, and I will go around and I will email each one personally, being like, it was so great to see you tonight. I'm so pleased that Max is enjoying Imperial. You know, it's super special to have the relationship that you do with your son, blah, blah, blah. I do it that night. I never do it the next day.
And why is that so important?
It's so important because it just shows them that you're on it, and it's fresh in their mind. Like, it's just crucial to be on it. And the other reason is 90% of people don't actually then do it the next day. Something happens, it's a busy day and I get a lot. Do it the night before. Always. I always do it in the Uber home.
It's not hard.
Nope, not hard at all. Honestly, sometimes it can be a copy and paste and you just put the first line as personalized. Makes such a difference.
That's awesome. You've constantly, even during this conversation, tapped into the fact that, you know, relationships run the world.
It's literally the only thing that matters.
It's right. And you're sitting here now, people might watch this and say, oh, that's easy for him to say, right? But you started out with nothing.
Nothing.
Your first guest, you found his email on the website in the source code. And I want to tap into cold emailing because that might be a little bit more accessible and, you know, more actionable for people to, you know, try and get to this position where you're at these dinners and you can follow up with people. Why is cold emailing so important? And well, I mean, it basically got you to where you are. And why is that, you know, why do relationships run the world?
I mean, it is absolutely nuts to me that you can find anyone's email on the internet and just like cold email them. Like, I'm pretty sure if you're a good enough stalker, because you have to be a stalker, by the way. Everyone should learn to be a really efficient SDR, but essentially stalker. Compliance probably kill me for that one. But like, you can find any email online. And so then the onus is on you. And where do people go wrong with cold email? They're too long. They're not nearly personalized enough. And they just don't do the work. And so, you know, Marc Benioff, I emailed 53 times, once every single week. Now, I'm amazed that he didn't block me, to be honest. I would have called the police.
Who was this guy?
And every time I would A/B test different personalizations. His favorite drink, his holiday home, his favorite holiday destination, Salesforce quarterly results, which are amazing. And I would absolutely just relentlessly never give up. And the other thing that's insane with LLMs is you can actually leverage them to say, hey, I want to write an email to Marc Benioff and I want to show that I've really done my work. What are 5 things that very few people know about Marc that would really impress him at a layer of personalization that not many people engage with? And they will tell you. I use them to really bring out amazing, amazing truths that are less obvious. And then I'll put it as a PS. And so how do you do a cold email? Number 1, fucking clear subject line. Don't do this like really needy, like, you know, attention, but like 20 VC podcast appearance, done. And then you're like, hi, Marc, you know what? I hope you're well. Never. Who's like, I hope you're unwell? No one. I hope you're in blistering pain and discomfort. No one. Like, if so, please don't read the fucking email. So it's like, hi, Marc, keeping short out of respect for your time. I would love to have you on 20 VC. State your objective. Okay, I would love to have you on 20 VC. And then you want social validity, which is like why they should do it and feel like they're not the first and, you know, joining something very valid. We have X amount of subscribers, followers, you name it, and have had guests like X, Y, and Z. And then super simple, we simply require 30 minutes of time and it's done on Riverside. Bosh. And then I put PS. If you do it, I will send you a bottle of your favorite Macallan 75, which is a favorite whiskey.
Right.
Wow. super clear, really well outlined. And holy shit, he's done his work on my favorite whiskey. Well done.
Yeah.
No one does that. Do you know how few people cold email well? I mean, like, so few people can do that well. It's ridiculous.
And it's learnable. It's trainable. Like,
It's super learnable.
yeah.
Super learnable.
And you've used that for fundraising, for getting guests.
For everything. But I still cold email today. Most of the guests that we get today are me cold emailing.
Still.
Yeah.
And you've
Yeah.
done thousands of shows.
Thousands of shows. Sam Altman have had prime ministers. I went to Downing Street, which is, the home of the prime minister. I've interviewed many state leaders. I mean, yeah.
You think it's enough?
No, and the nice thing is people do respond to your cold emails now more. So that's helpful.
Yeah, but you've put in the work.
But 100%, I still cold email all the time. All the time. I love it. But I set aside like half an hour a week of like hustle time, which is like pure 30 minutes of, I really want to get X, Y, and Z on the show. Let's think about strategic ways that I can do that.
Yeah.
But sorry, yeah, Peter Fanton basically taught me that fundamentally the very best founders make you feel incredibly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The intensity with which they kind of bring their energy is just very, very tangible. I think that's the same for fund managers. And I think the big change that we're seeing in venture is that the best fund managers are founders, and they bring that same level of intensity. I'm not sure that I make all of my LPs feel comfortable.
That's not your job, though.
It's not my job, but they definitely feel the intensity. And so I think that's really important. In terms of the parable of the fisherman, I don't put much of the success we've had down to luck, but I put luck as being incredibly important in watching The Social Network. And finding what I love. Most people actually, I think, are unhappy because they don't know what they love. And that's really sad. I've always had this unwavering direction of knowing what I love. And there's the parable of, the fisherman and, the businessman. And I can tell it very briefly, which is very simple, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's kind of good to cliff notes it, otherwise it'll be a long and boring tirade, which is there's a fisherman on a beach and there's a businessman, and it's about 11 a.m. and he's, smoking a cigarette and having a beer. And the businessman comes up to the fisherman and says, "What are you doing? You should be out fishing. You could catch more fish and then you could make more money."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, and then what?" He goes, "Well, then you could hire more fishermen and you could catch more fish and make more money."
Yeah.
He goes, and then what?" And he goes, "Well, fuck. Then you could buy a boat and, have even more fishermen and catch even more fish and make even more money." He goes, "And then what?" He goes, "Well, then you could sell this kind of fleet of boats and fishermen and make a huge amount of money." And he goes, "Well, and then what?" He goes, "Then you could lie on the beach and drink a beer and smoke a cigarette at 11 a.m. And the fisherman goes, "Well, what am I doing now?" And I think it's really important because I think it's very crucial to understand what really makes you happy. We laughed about my shorts and maybe how I dress. I find it very, very sad to see most of venture and the desperate insecurity that we feel we need to have the Patek or the Brunello Cucinelli or whatever bullshit that's largely paid for by fees, which I think we can get into separately. But I'm here to win, and there is nothing else that matters than winning for me. And we can talk about culture separately because it's tied to winning. But fundamentally, the question then is, well, what makes me really happy? What makes me really happy is walking around the park with my mum and getting an espresso, and then also talking to really smart people who change the way that I see the world. That's a really special trait. Someone who can reshape a belief that you previously had that was really quite cemented. That's a joy. I really enjoy that. Honestly, the money is a total output of that. I'll never forget Doug Leone from Sequoia telling me that the only thing that matters in venture capital is finding the very best founders before anyone else. And that's why Sequoia will always do pre-seed investing. And if you don't find great joy from doing that, from finding these great founders before anyone else, you shouldn't be an investor in my eyes.
You're in the wrong game.
You're in the wrong game. Yeah. And I think a lot of venture today, sadly, is tourists. It's people who like the idea of being in venture. It's intellectually interesting to sit in a room and pontificate about bullshit that you don't know about. I mean, honestly, market sizing at early seed rounds or pre-seed rounds, what a wonderful intellectual exercise to show that you're just going to be wildly wrong in several years. The number one reason why great investments are not made at seed or pre-seed.
If you're trying to run a successful business, you need to have the right tools. The Biography podcast is presented by Ro, the all-in-one banking platform for startups. Thousands of startups like Perplexity, Product Hunt, and more use Ro to power their business. You get everything you need to manage your startup's cash. Fast banking setup, cards with up to 2% cash back, and yield that turns extra cash into extra runway. Everything you don't want to think about in the early days of starting your company, but you need to have to launch, Ro covers for you. But what I and many other founders really love about Ro is their team. They are an A-plus organization. Harry and I have talked about the importance of caring deeply about what you do. And I've met a lot of the team at Ro, and they are obsessed with helping founders like you disrupt the status quo, and they will go above and beyond to help you do so. And exclusively for Biography podcast listeners and viewers, you'll get a $1,500 statement credit, plus a ton of exclusive perks when you manage your company's cash with Ro. To learn more, visit rho.co/biography. Terms and conditions apply. Ro is a fintech, not a bank. Checking and card services provided by Webster Bank. Member FDIC. See rewards terms for details.
Is people completely misunderstand market size. Right. Number one reason for sure. I do not give a shit about product or market or even really traction at pre-seed or seed. This is like completely irrelevant. The only thing that matters is the founder and the founder quality. And I think people don't talk about this, which is like, you need to be completely unhinged. You need to be so obsessed that, again, it's uncomfortable in some ways to be around. Now, one of the most biggest turn-offs for me is when a founder goes, you know, for my next project, I'm going to work on this. No. There is no next project. And this is another thing that people kind of misunderstand. $1 billion is not enough. Mm-hmm. Sounds very rude and very flippant, and I don't take $1 billion for granted. It's an amazing outcome. But if you have a venture fund like ours, or like most other venture funds in our category, $10 billion is what you need. Mm-hmm. Why is that for people that don't understand venture funds? $1 billion, if you have an average of 5% on exit, say 10% on entry, you get diluted, say 50% from seed. Mm-hmm. Wow, $1 billion returns 50 million. Well, on a 400 million combined fund size, returns not enough.
Yeah.
$10 billion, it returns more than the fund. Mm-hmm. So you need to have these $10 billion plus outcomes. To have a $10 billion plus outcome, I cannot tell you, one, how rare it is, and I cannot tell you how unwaveringly talented and brilliant these founders are.
Yeah.
And you have to be obsessed and unhinged.
Yeah.
And that's why I do bet on us, because I think it takes one to know one. There's very few things that I do that are healthy.
Yeah.
No, really, I have the same food every single day. I never change my food, and I only have one meal a day.
Yep.
It's weird.
It's not healthy.
It's weird. No, I have mercury poisoning because I only eat sashimi. Right. My doctor is like incredibly worried. Yeah, he's genuinely worried. But it's so important. Mm-hmm. And you feel that addiction. When I not train, but talk to some of the investors that work here and that I work with, I'm like, you don't need to unpack much to see greatness. You could say, what's your day been like today? I can tell you. Every morning I make my longevity shake at 2 a.m. after doing the studying TikToks and YouTubes and Instagrams, and I make it before the next day so I can go in and pick it up. And then I have 2 espressos in my longevity shake, and then I have an 8:30 meeting walking around the park. Why do I walk around the park at 8:30 with founders every single morning? Because I think venture completely fucks up the pathway to showing greatness in founders. What do I mean, the pathway to showing greatness in founders? What does that mean? Well, young, amazing founders need to feel like they can tell you anything, like they can share the deepest, darkest secrets. Mm-hmm. If you bring them into a posh VC office and give them a Fiji water, it is not the environment that is conducive with, I'm going to tell you everything about me that makes me who I am. Walking around a park, not having the eye contact, being able to be in nature means people open up so dramatically more. And that's also why, I think being an interviewer is so important as for being an investor, because you have 3 to 5 minutes as an interviewer, really, where you have to make people feel comfortable, where they can share anything. And it's a real skill to have that ability to make people unlock really, for me, it's very often I'll bring my own vulnerability. I'll talk about, my bulimia, alcoholism, mum's MS. You really have your smorgasbord of trauma from my childhood that you can pick from. But it makes people open up. Or another great tactic to do, which again, these are very tangible things people can do. Ask someone for advice. The minute you ask someone for advice, instantly they feel in a position of superiority. And instantly they are much more open to sharing. I'd love your advice. I'm struggling on this. How would you think about that? Doesn't matter if you don't actually need the fucking advice. Just pretend you do.
Right.
But it makes people open up in a way that you wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah.
So I think interviewing really parallels well to investing.
This really goes back to, you've talked about the customer experience of investing. And I think, you being so obsessed with the founder and that being sort of the make or break moment in a deal or even in a fund in a larger extent. Why is that so important, that customer obsession and understanding, what the founder cares about and, making this connection as a fund? Like why does that make or break the fund?
You know what I hate about young investors?
No.
Hate the fact that they don't understand the process of fundraising. When you are fundraising, you have 10 calls a day and everyone asks you the same questions. And it's literally just like going through the FAQs of your business. And it is, in a lot of cases, if I'm lucky, my LPs are great, but for most managers, it's a pretty tedious process. And you have so much empathy for founders raising when you've been through that, when you've been told no, 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 when the associate joins the call, not the partner you were emailing with. You have so much empathy for them. And so I think deeply about the customer experience because I've been through that process and I care so much that the founders that we invest in and meet don't. What does that actually mean? Like reality, fine, you care about customer experience. Every call is recorded. Why is it recorded? Because one, everyone on our team can write a check. If you can't write a check, go away. Don't meet me. Like seriously, if you meet an investor that can't write a check, fuck off. What are they there to do? What, filter for someone else to write it? Yeah, but seriously? You want to compete against me and my team who can all write checks? Bold. And so how do I think about customer experience in this way? We record every call. Why do we record every call? Because I don't want you to have to go through the same founder story and the same questions that you did with one of my partners. I want every single engagement with us to be additive. And so I'll join a second call, or I'll do a first call and my partner will do a second call. And we'll say, hey, I heard you say in your chat with Kieran that actually scaling into enterprise has been really hard for you because you haven't been able to build a sales playbook. Can we just spend a bit of time on that? How do we think about building that out given the new round? What hires do we need to make? Instantly, we've skipped all the bullshit. Your call is already top 1% for them because it's additive. It's not, hey, how did you meet your co-founder? Why did you start the
Same
company?
questions as the first call.
Yeah, it's straight away. Oh, wow. You've heard the first call. We're building on that. These guys are on it. This is really impressive. It's really, really important. The other thing that I find very frustrating is people conflate speed with a worsening of decision making. And it's not true if you have amazing network. We move insanely fast. Peak is a good example. We did this deal, led their round, wrote a $5 million check in 24 hours. And you're like, well, you can't have done any good diligence in 24 hours. I spoke to two of the largest foundation model CEOs to ask whether they would be moving into the analytics space for this segment within that 24-hour period. I can guarantee you not many people would have been able to message and get on a call with two of the biggest CEOs of the foundation model companies. It does not mean that you make worse quality decisions.
Right.
You just need to have high quality networks to get to that data quickly. Really interesting.
And that's, I think, kind of the power of you having the media arm of 20VC, right? Is that integral into being able to tap into that network, understand people, and sort of increase that size?
100%. 100%. I completely agree. But when I started, everyone told me that you don't get it. You don't get it. Media and investing will never be a thing. That just won't be a thing. And I think the best companies are founded on the back of insight developments, which is a way that you see the world that no one else does. And for me, I believe that venture would be increasingly transparent. It would lose the old boys club mentality, and it's deliberately sexist in that way. It would be less and less the old boys club. And that it was increasingly commoditized, and that you would need to bring very different assets to the table to win in a next stage of venture. And I think this is what we're seeing in this age of venture now, which is very helpful for us. Do you know what the number one metric that founders care about today? Speed of ARR growth. How fast can I get from 0 to 8, 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, Cursor, Lovable, Mercor, you name these companies, that's what they're pounding. And it is teaching a generation of founders that speed of ARR growth is everything. So what can an investor do to meaningfully win a round? Meaningfully help you. What is that? Distribution. We did a LinkedIn post for one of our companies, and they got 3 million in ARR in 36 hours, and they are a 5 million ARR company.
Right.
That is a very
60%.
meaningful.
It's huge.
It's a big needle mover.
Yeah.
And so very luckily for us, the world has moved in our favor,
Right.
because it really puts a lot of appreciation on distribution,
Right.
in a way that I don't think it necessarily did before.
Yeah, I think you've even talked about, I want to talk about the only reason you have that distribution is because you put in the work and it's a high quality content that you're putting out there. Otherwise, people aren't going to go on your show and listen to it. And there's two things you've said. It's one, for every hour of recording, you do about 3 hours of distribution and promotion. I want to talk about that, and then also why you cut so much of the content in the interviews, and how does that really high quality product allow you to have that distribution for essentially your customers in one sense.
Can I give you some feedback?
Please, yeah.
Always ask one question at a time.
Too much.
No. It's like I say this to our investing team where they'll be with founders and they'll be like, "I'd love to hear your thoughts on two things," and it's like people can't take two things at once.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I always used to do the same. Also, like a big thing that people make a mistake on is, especially when they're nervous. It's a really good interview. You're brilliant at this, so it's not you, but like they answer the question when it's a hard question,
right?
And so they'll say like, why did the bulimia come about? Was it the relationship you had with your mother? Was it the fact that your family lost their money? And it's like, you have to be comfortable in silence.
Right.
Following silence most often is the most valuable segment of an interview, but it can be very awkward. Same with the founder, which is like, I don't understand this. Can you unpack that?
And then just wait.
It's okay to be in silence.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one question.
Yeah.
Why do you cut so much of the content from your podcasts?
Because I deeply care about the attention of the consumer more than anything else in the world. Like really, like podcasts are a product. Would you ever let your product be released if 30% of it was meh? Can you imagine if Sam Altman came out and said, 30% of GPTs, but 70 is pretty good.
Right.
No, you don't ship it. And so it's the same for why we don't release 30%. And it's the same for why we cut so heavily. I value your attention so much, and I fear churn so much, that I want every sentence to be valuable, which is why I will make sure that we construct shows in a way that you get the first nugget of wisdom within the first 3 to 5 minutes, that we tell a story arc that is engaging and really keeps you, that we kind of leave some room for surprise, hopefully at the end with the quick fire rounds of the world. And so they're very carefully constructed in a way that people don't think and see, which I think is why they've been successful. And that's really, really important. So why do we cut so much? Because honestly, if you want retention, I think you have to value consumer attention so much, and I want it to be the most engaging hour of your day.
The word to value ratio.
Yeah. Exactly. Word to value ratio is everything. We hate fluff.
Yeah.
Well, it's a really good question, and it depends. Get rid of it. Number 1, this. Number 2, this. Number 3, this. It's really important. And you know what's so interesting is when you edit like that, you learn to speak like that. It clarifies how you structure your words by editing in that way.
Because you're filtering the video that you're seeing. You're seeing yourself. Yeah, even this.
Absolutely. It's super, super helpful.
Yeah.
And we don't release 30% of shows.
Which is insane.
Well,
it sounds insane.
I completely get that. But the challenge that you have there is like, again, this is a product. I don't release bad product ever. And if it's not good enough, it doesn't reflect well on the guest. And so I'm actually doing them a favor as well by not releasing a show where they maybe aren't presented in their best light.
You talked about the guest experience. You do something that's very unique, not releasing the shows. What do you do when you haven't released them? Because I can imagine that can be a very hard moment to tell someone, hey, you just spent 2 hours with us. We're not going to put it out.
I email them or I call them. It depends on who they are. If they'll kill me.
Then it's an email?
Yeah. And then I'll say, listen, I so appreciate the time. The most important thing for me is that you come out in the best possible light. I think you're incredible, and which is why I wanted you on the show. That said, I don't know if that really came across in the interview. And I just really care about personal brand and I respect yours so much. So I think maybe we should try it again in a year or so and we can have another go then.
Really thoughtful.
Hopefully it's really thoughtful.
Yeah. Do you ever do that with investments as well? Where you've rejected a founder or not or passed on an investment?
I am very happy to be a 6 out of 10 to most founders that we meet. And you're like, given your thing on customer experience, what does that mean then? Mm-hmm. When it comes to like a pass email, if you give a lot of reasons, a lot of people will jump on me and shit on me for this. I would clip this and put it on social because it's a very controversial one. But when it comes to a pass email, I do not go into detail in any way on it. It's a bit like dumping someone in the end. Mm-hmm. Like, don't open up that actually she leaves the towel on the floor. The bathroom's a complete tip. She's generally moody and low energy. Don't. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. You know what? I'm sorry, this isn't working for me and it's over. Mm-hmm. Don't give people something to argue with because they will always argue. And so don't give them something to argue with. So we just say, I'm so sorry. It's not a fit for us, but best of luck. And you're like, well, that's actually not a great experience for founders. Yeah, but it also means that I can spend, some people spend 15 minutes on rejection emails. No offense, that's not the best use of your time.
Right.
I care so much about being incredible to Fixer, to Peak, to Lovable, companies which are unbelievable. And I want to be the best fucking investor on their cap table. And I can do that because I'm ruthless with my time. Mm-hmm. I really don't think people understand quite how intense I am. There's a brilliant quote. I think it's Da Vinci. And it's, I've given my life to my art and I've lost my mind in the process.
It's Van Gogh.
That's it. It's a brilliant quote. Well done. That's really good knowledge. I love it. And in a lot of ways, I really resonate with it.
So you feel like you've lost your mind to the game?
There's nothing I can ever think of other than winning and what I can do to increase the chances of us winning. I will not do anything that does not increase the chances of founders wanting to work with us and us finding the best founders in the world.
And you've just identified that phrase you just mentioned. What is winning to you? What does that look like?
I think the most important thing for any business is to understand the North Star metric from which everything else cascades. Mm-hmm. And the North Star metric for us, and there's two different ones actually, but media company and fund.
Yep.
But the North Star metric for the fund is we must find the best founders in the world and make them want our money.
Yeah.
That's it. If we do that, everything else works. Like, honestly, everything
the score will
else
take care
works.
of itself.
Everything will take care of itself. Fundraising takes care of itself. Portfolio, like the best companies really don't need you. We like to say that they do. They really don't.
Right.
Anton just wants to hang out with me at Lovable. He doesn't need strategic advice. So like that is the fundamental North Star there.
Yeah.
For you in your media company and for me in my media company, the fundamental North Star and everything else cascades from this is the quality of guests that you are able to get on the show. Mm-hmm. If you are able to do amazing high quality shows with great guests, everything else will cascade. You'll be able to get more great guests. You'll be able to grow your audience. With the audience growth, you'll be able to get more money.
Yep. And
it will all circle around. And so the number one metric is the quality of guests you have coming on your show.
Yeah. Well, thank you for making that easier. One step easier for me.
Not at all, but so many people fundamentally misunderstand their North Star metric and it's confused. And it's so important. Whenever we make an investment, right after the investment, I want a meeting because I want to really clearly articulate what is the North Star and what are the steps that we're doing to drive there. I always say a funding round is a bit like a science experiment. We're here to prove or disprove a certain hypothesis. It's very important to know what that hypothesis is.
Right.
And it's okay to not get there, but then we have lessons.
Okay.
You know, you never lose, you just learn. But you really need to articulate that hypothesis.
Yeah. How do you go about doing that though? You meet with a founder, you yourself with a media company, the VC firm, you start out, there's so many options, so many things that seem like the right thing to do.
I just go back to the North Star metric of like, hey, does this fundamentally increase our ability to find the best founders?
Right.
If not, then no.
Which goes back to why you are okay being a 6 out of 10 on a pass email.
100%. Like the pass email is not likely the area where we're going to find the next great founder.
Right.
And so I'm not going to over-rotate on that.
Yeah. Europe's going downhill, or so it seems. Yeah. Is this also then why you've started Project Europe, to try and source and find those really next generational talent level founders?
No, I started Project Europe because I came across the realization that VCs don't matter. Come on, we're just middlemen that pass money from one person to another person and, you know, have a preference for one ridiculous, you know, founder type over another and pretend like we know the future. I mean, it's you know, I care deeply about, and maybe this goes back to the, you know, inferiority complex or insecurity, but I care deeply about, I'm also terrified of death, fun fact. And so legacy matters a lot. But I want to be going to the happiness. I want to be able to look at my grandchildren as I sit in an armchair and say that I did something good with my life, and to say that we had an impact and that grandpa actually helped meaningfully move the world and a continent forward. And, you know, I love Europe deeply. I love being in the UK and I love London. And it desperately saddens me to see where we are and where we're heading. And so one night with sashimi and my loneliness, I was sitting there looking at Peter Thiel's Thiel Fellowship and the cohort data there, and I saw just very few European founders, and I thought that's desperately wrong, and there must be a reason for this. And, you know, when I kind of unpacked it further and further, I realized that we had the chance to build, it's a very bastardized concept, but a Thiel Fellowship for Europe in some ways. You know, Paul Graham recently tweeted that, you know, you shouldn't drop out of university for a startup and blah, blah, blah. You know, I would never like to start a fight with Paul Graham because he's incredibly smart and wise and done far more than me. But what a moronic statement. To be so, you know what I've learned with age? Everything's just nuanced. He's just wrong.
There's no concrete.
He's just wrong to say you should stay. And I would be incredibly wrong to say you should leave.
Right.
It entirely depends. But if you have an unbelievably good idea and you want to do it, you should do it. But I thought it was really damaging to be that prescriptive, because people do listen. You know, the weight of your words are very, very powerful. I sit on boards, and it's challenging when you have unbelievably prestigious board members and a 22-year-old founder. Because if you're not careful, the weight of your words can impact a company and a person in a very severe way.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very careful with how I use my words as well. That's important. What was the question?
No, it was around Project Europe.
Oh, yeah. And so I was looking basically, and I was like, right, Thiel does not do Europe well.
Right.
We can do Europe much better. I can leverage media, distribution, and brand to make every young person in Europe who wants to be an entrepreneur inspired to build a great fucking company. We need a mission, and our mission is very simple. We want to increase the GDP of Europe. We want to make sure that innovation does come out of Europe. You're Dutch. And I want, you know what's so sad for me now, actually, and I don't mean to state this like negatively, but we funded 7 amazing 18 to 25-year-olds. And
from Project Europe.
From Project Europe so far. And there's, you know, an 18-year-old in Athens building robots out of his grandmother's garage. I mean, unbelievable. Like, we've had one company acquired. Already. By an amazing business, and we made great money on it. Like, it is working, and it will be one of the defining things that I do in my life. But what saddens me so much is we have had several generations then that we've lost, because this hasn't been here.
Because only now
are we funding this guy who would never get VC funding today.
Right.
Building robots from his grandmother's garage with 4,000 euros. He is socially awkward as fuck. He can't speak to VCs. He doesn't have friends. Like, no. And we are here to shine a light on the corner of every European country and find the most ambitious young founder in the world and tell them that they can build a massive business on a global scale, and I will help you. And it is still an old boys club. And I hate that term as much as anyone. And so I can hear the audience cringing, but it's still an old boys club, whether you like it or not. And so what matters is, do you have the keys to the kingdom? And, very fortunately in my position, I do. And so what I can do is unlock it for the best talent in Europe in a way that really gains incredible potential for them. And I find that super inspiring.
Do you think that's going to be the thing you'll be remembered by when you are 75 and talk to your grandchildren?
I honestly do. Again, I said VCs are not that special. We're not. I was listening to, Peter Fanton talk the other day, and he said, I came very close to funding Toby at Shopify, and it turns out he did just fine without me. And Peter's amazing, one of the best, but it turns out he did. The money was replaceable.
Right.
The advice was replaceable.
Right.
What we're doing with Project Europe, only we can do because of the distribution, because of the media company, because of the content.
Right. The founders backing it.
It is, if the founders backing it. I got 200 founders backing it within 36 hours entirely through WhatsApp. I did not do one call for it.
Right.
That's something that only I think we'd be able to do. And I don't say that arrogantly. It's 10 years of hard work. But it's something that only we are able to do. And I think it is what we will be most remembered for. And it's definitely what I'm most proud of.
Was there any moment you remember thinking, we need Project Europe?
Honestly, it was when I spoke to more and more founders, and every one of them was like, I keep getting told I have to move to San Francisco. And it just hurt my soul. And I thought it's wrong. And, I think time and time again, what we've seen is that, Europeans are able to build just as big a business as any Americans. And I hate this whole we're just as good as you. And, you know what the best freaking example of that is? Nick at Revolut. And the biggest challenge with Europe is the fragmentation of our regulations in our countries. Nick at Revolut is the best example where when he got the Lithuanian passport, banking license, which allowed him to passport into all the different countries, oh my God, did he build a monster. And oh my God, America, the land of opportunity and market size. Let's look at your neobanks. You don't come close to Revolut. Right. You don't come close. And so I think we can build global challengers, not European copycats. And I think when we beat a couple of core elements, like the regulatory challenges, then we have the chance to build mega companies.
Then it's an unlock.
Yeah.
How far away do you think that is?
Do you know what? I don't talk about regulation because I can't help it.
Right.
And so it's like, control what you can control. I think it's really important. It's like knowing what swim lane you're playing in. I think a lot of people lose the game because they don't know what game they're playing.
That North Star metric again.
Their North Star metric, and also just knowing which swim lane they're in.
Yeah.
I know what game I'm playing. Yeah. I'm not playing the think tank game. Right. Another thing I really hate about companies today is brainstorming. I don't want to fucking brainstorm. I want to go. Yeah. I want to learn. I want to iterate. Very much like early stage companies. Early stage companies are defined by your operating cadence. It's defined by how fast you move, because the faster you move, the more at-bats you have. The more at-bats you have, the more lessons you learn. And it's about increasing that cadence as much as possible. As you get more mature, it changes slightly, and it's not entirely speed. It's also velocity. Ryan at Flatsport taught me this, which is obviously speed in a given direction. But really, activity drives outcomes in a lot of ways when you're early and young.
That's incredible. Your actions express priorities. Get to work.
Which is why it's very, very helpful to just do more.
Right.
Do more interviews. Do more shows.
Right.
It also increases the chance of luck happening to you. One question that very few LPs ask, which I always find fascinating, is what do you do to increase the chances of luck happening? We all hear a lot, venture's a game of luck.
Right.
Well, if we agree that you can increase the chances of luck,
How are you?
what do you do to increase the chances?
Right.
Well, that's a really interesting question. I actually interview 3 of the best Decacorn founders every single week. And at the end, I ask them who the biggest hidden talent is that no one talks about that people should talk about. Right. And that leads to 3 amazing new conversations every week with people that are less expected.
Yep.
That is how I increase chance of luck. Or another one that's a great one. Hey, I'm a student actually at Imperial, and we have an amazing healthcare division, and I host a healthcare entrepreneurial meetup every month. And now over a year, I've met 1,000 of the best healthcare entrepreneurs in the UK through doing that. Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
You're creating that surface area of luck
100%.
Through more activity and by knowing what's the North Star metric.
Super strategically, you need to increase the chance of luck hitting you as much as possible.
Let's talk about some of your investments. How did the best startups do this? Is there a commonality between different fields or different founders that you've seen be successful in getting to that 100 mil ARR quicker?
Yes, you have to be a masochist. You have to enjoy getting punched in the face. And people are like, well, no one enjoys it, but you get used to it. No, you actually have to turn the dial in your head to, actually, I like it. I thrive.
Say no again.
I thrive on getting hit.
Yeah.
And that's what the very best founders have. This like, hey, I'm going to get hit. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back. And when people see that you're not giving up, a lot of things change. And so I think, what is that commonality? It's this just unwavering resilience in the face of everything telling you no. And just working harder than other people, honestly. I think I've now interviewed 1,000 of the very best founders. I would say there's kind of 3 common traits. I think number 1 is the very best founders most often move a lot in childhood. They're forced to assimilate with very different cultures, make new friends, leave friends, form new communities, you name it. It's very difficult when you're young to move around as much.
Face that rejection.
Yeah. Number 2 is they very often are part of gaming clans, either led them or were part of them intensely. And then number 3 is they started something entrepreneurial, at least in their teenage years. I've never met a truly great founder, and I'm sure there is, but I haven't met them, who didn't start anything until they were 25, leaving Stanford or Oxford or Cambridge.
Right. There's always been some side project.
Well, I was building websites when I was 12, and then that led to me building my own gaming company. Entrepreneurial roots show themselves so early. Yeah. And again, my job is to uncover that. Yeah. I would never want to ask a question to a founder that's in the deck. Tell me about your go-to-market and how you think about paid versus, organic. What a load of crap. That's in the deck. It's slide 11 or 12.
The answer's in there.
We should never be talking about that. I want to go back to your school. Did you enjoy school? No, I didn't enjoy school. Why is that? I just hated institutions and the guardrails they put on you. Also, what did you do to escape that? Honestly, I used to at lunch break go into town and buy sandwiches at the local store and bring them back to school and sell them for more money because no one else would actually sneak out in the middle of the day. Oh, that's really interesting. I'm learning so much about you from these questions that most people never see.
Or ask.
Yeah, or ask. And again, going back to customer experience, imagine being that founder who's going through 10 VC calls in a day and they've been asked about their MRR growth, their sales team expansion, market size from 9. And then you have someone saying, hey, talk to me about your relationship to your siblings. Doug Leone taught me this one, a brilliant one. Again, I'm so grateful to have had the life I have because I've basically been able to be a sponge to the greatest investors of our generation and learn from them. And Doug Leone, who led Sequoia for many, many years, ferocious leader, brilliant leader. He taught me, always ask about their siblings because the way that someone describes their siblings will say a lot about them. And so, someone might say, my brother, great. They're very happy with, kind of plodding along, 9 to 5, good person, but honestly just lack a bit of that drive. I'm learning something about you. I'm learning there's actually a slight disdain for that 9 to 5. There's this disdain for mediocrity. You learn so much from how someone describes their siblings.
That's a great question. Is that something when you're building your own team, is that a question you ask during the hiring or
I look for a couple of things in people. I really desperately like deep trauma. Life is hard and it will continue to be. I need to know that you've seen it as hard as it can be very early. If you're 30 and you haven't had deep hardship, when it comes, it will be so painful. So I really like to unpack the trauma, as kind of deep and philosophical as it sounds. And then I really like something which is, I like people to have done great work or good work with shit brands. Okay. And why do I like that? If you have a shit brand and you've been able to win deals, get into good companies, wow, what happens if you've got a truly great brand? If you've got the Sequoia brand and you've managed to get into good deals, that doesn't
really
actually
you?
Tell me that much.
Right.
You know, Kieran, who's one of my partners, respectfully, his fund before was an EIS fund, which is like a type of tax structured fund. It's not a great fund, to be honest. But he was one of the best early stage investors in Europe with this fund. Whoa. So he had this like drag behind him and he was still one of the best. What happens if we propel him forward with this accelerant of a brand, not a drag? He's become, I think, probably the best pre-seed and seed investor in Europe. Wow. The other thing that's so important, dude, is you've got to be the purple cow.
Yes.
Yeah. And the purple cow in our game can be so many different things. But, when we're doing, hunting a deal, there's always 8 to 10 term sheets. Mm-hmm. We've lost 2 in the last 2 years. I hate people who are like, oh, we don't ever lose term sheets. Oh. No, we've lost 2. Happy to talk about them. But we've lost 2. But in that hunt, you have to be the purple cow. And so when we send a term sheet, we'll send this incredible short form video, which has the amazing company story, some of the amazing achievements that the company has. Yep. And I like to break things into structure. Again, clarity drives progress in life and structure drives clarity. And so for me, I'm always like, what are the chapters of our story? Chapters of the story is like, what does the company do? What have they achieved? And what's their future plans? And we do this within a 4-hour period. Okay, and
sending the term sheet.
Oh no, we send this with the term sheet.
Okay.
But like because you want to be the purple cow. They
right.
get 10 term sheets. If they get a term sheet and an amazing video, we're instantly the number one.
Right.
Because we're just different.
Yeah.
And it's really important. People are like, well, I could do that. Good fucking luck. Why good luck? You can just go to an agency, right? An agency has no idea about your style. They have no idea about the company.
Right.
By the way, we've got to do a scope of work and we've got to do a project planning, a costing. Oh,
that's already more than 4 hours.
This is probably at least 2 weeks. My team, I go up, I'm like, I need a video for score play. Yeah. I want it like this. I'm thinking inspiring music. Go. 4 hours, done. We send it with a term sheet. What's beautiful about it also is the tangibility of it. Let's talk about tangibility of fundraising actually after this, but the tangibility of the video is so important because the founder then sends it to their angel investors, to their team. Yep. And they go, wow, who did that? Yeah. And they go, 20 VC. They've just given us that's pretty cool. We could actually benefit from having some more of these. Yeah. Oh, wow. That is very, very important. And so the fact that it's tangible is great,
Right.
So I think that a lot. And then, speaking of tangibility, how have we been able to raise so efficiently and I think well? We sell tangible goods in a world of very fluffy, intangible. Venture sells 2 things. We sell knowledge and network. Right. The knowledge is, I'm the smartest in fintech. And the network is, I went to Stanford and I know everyone coming out of Stanford. Right. I say, I'm not selling you anything intangible. I'm selling you the largest media platform in venture. I'm selling you 20 sales, 20 product, 20 growth, a network of the best operators in these companies who hunt, help us win, and help our portfolio. I'm selling you Project Europe, which is the best young talent in Europe, where we have unbelievable access before anyone else. I'm selling you a suite of products that mean we are strategically better than our competitors in a way that is data-driven and not intangible.
It's tangible, and then they can then send that to those other people when they've got the videos.
Can you imagine for them writing the memo? I always think like, put yourself in the shoes of the person writing the memo.
Yeah.
There's no, I believe, Project Europe has invested in 8 amazing entrepreneurs, of which one has been acquired. 20 VC has access before anyone else to invest in them. Blah 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 blah. That is strategically and objectively an asset. You can't doubt it. You could say, well, is Harry really that smart on X? I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
I want to be the removable cog in a lot of ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. Can we translate that and parlay that into some of your investments you've done and how you've gone about being this purple cow and being the first into these deals? You've talked about Peak. That was a very quick turnaround from when you actually decided to invest in them. What made you stand out, and what was that experience like?
Paul, who I've mentioned a couple of times, said to me, hey, this founder's supposed to be amazing. Harry, go DM him. I'm basically I'm a professional SDR at this point. And so I DM him and I say, hey, I'd love to meet. I've heard great things. And he says, listen, we're signing a term sheet tomorrow, so it's probably going to be too late. And I said, listen, a term sheet's like a marriage. And you say, are you sure this is the right person to marry? And he said, fine. And then sent me a link to a Google Meet. And I was in Hyde Park walking, and I was under a tree in the rain at 8 p.m. in the evening.
Ideal spot to talk to someone.
And I was like, okay, great. And after 10 minutes, I was like, you know what? I hate the category. So I said, listen, dude, I just don't think it's one for us. I really hate the space that you're in. And it was amazing because he suddenly kind of completely changed. He became unleashed. He was so honest. He was this animal machine. And I was like, hang on a minute. Okay, well, let's back the truck up. I have consistently made bad mistakes. I said no to Vanta at pre-seed. I said no to Deel at pre-seed. And both of those are really important lessons, not arrogantly in any way. I knew they were unbelievably great founders, but I didn't like the market. HR and payroll, there's a lot of big players. It's boring. SOP 2 and compliance, Jesus, shoot me in the head.
She even famously estimated the market was less than it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so fundamentally, I consistently made the mistake of placing any emphasis on market when the only emphasis should ever be placed on the founder. And that hit me in that moment. And I was like, you know what? I might be an idiot. So you need to speak to my partner, Kieran, and he'll jump on a call with you in 10 minutes. And so Kieran jumped on the call in 10 minutes. And then our third partner, JC, jumped on the call, after Kieran that night. Speed is everything. We don't have like ICs on Monday where it's like, oh, we're going to make a decision, yay or nay. Right. We are always freaking on. Always on. And in a game, one of the best lessons, I think it's Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett, whatever one it is, both brilliant, obviously. But they said the secret to success in business is weak competition. And I respond, and that's why I'm in European venture capital. But, in the US, moving that fast is not that much of a differentiator. Right. In Europe, you win because of that. Like, you really win because of that. You add on the media component, you add on the network, it's game over. So like we move very fast there. And then, I called Kieran up and I said,
let's do it.
Pack your bags, dude. Get on a plane. No, we don't ever invest in someone we don't meet in person.
Really?
Oh, never.
Never? Okay.
Number one rule, you got to meet them in person. 2021 was fraught with mistakes from a lot of people, me included, where we did not meet them in person. Only when you see the whites of their eyes do you measure their charisma, their qualities as a human. Really important there.
Yeah.
And so I said, Kieran, we're getting on a plane to Germany tomorrow. Go to Germany, spend the day with them. Also, when you travel to a foreign city as well, it's nice. People feel more obliged to spend more time with you. And they've come all this way. We might as well spend.
I can't say no.
Yeah, exactly. And so, we spent the time with them there. And it was just unwaveringly obvious to us that we had to invest, which goes to something that's really important. I always bring my assistant to the final meeting, like those meetings.
Why? That seems incredibly unimportant.
Weird. Why would you? Because when I'm in the meeting with the founder or the founding team, I always ask if she can just sit with the team because she needs to do her work while I'm in the meeting with them. My conversation with the founder is not as important as the work that she's doing outside, because what she's seeing is how every employee is when the founder is not in the room. She's hearing how they talk to each other, whether they leave the plates in the sink or not, how they engage with calls with each other, how the team's structured. Every little part of the fabric of that business is in that room. And that's where you get real value. And I so often will come out of that room and she'll say, honestly, horrible. Like it was not a good culture. The way that they spoke to each other was this culture of fear, or amazing culture. This, so important. So I always bring her, and you will get just as much valuable data from that as you will from being in the room.
Right. You're getting a real pulse of the company.
And as awful as this sounds and as detrimental as this sounds, you can't bring an investor. Most firms are like, oh, I'll bring another investor. Right. No. Trust me. When you bring an investor, we place this bullshit superiority on investors, whatever. People will be uptight. They will be, When you bring an assistant who's young, people are themselves.
Yeah.
That's where you get the truth.
Yeah. It goes back to what you said about if you're talking to a founder and you put on a suit and you talk to them in a meeting room instead of just going to Hyde Park or just walking around with them. That's really interesting that it translates to that as well.
100%. I'm not trying to be anything but myself. And I think a lot of founders, I was with Anton from Lovable in Sweden the last few days. And he was like, the thing I really like about you, dude, is like, you're just very honest, like very direct. And it's like, there's only me, and it's too tiring to try and live up to something that I'm not. And I think that resonates with founders.
Definitely. And you've talked about how you even start conversations like that. Like, hey, these are the problems I'm having, or hey, today wasn't a great day because of X, Y, Z. You're being brutally honest.
Sure.
Yeah. This is crazy. So you're flying out to all these investments. One story where you go to Los Angeles, where your brother has COVID, he was meant to join you, and Kieran joined you instead. What was that experience like?
I mean, again, I'm not normal, and so when Kieran joined me, I think he anticipated parties and beer and pizza. 6 a.m. fucking Barry's, and by the way, we're walking there, which is up a massive, massive hill, down massive hills. It's like a 7-mile walk. Kieran actually ended up in hospital
because of the walk.
No, because of it was so much work. Like it was the classes, the walks that then I made him do runs and a weight session, and he literally ended up in Mount Sinai Hospital. And you still work together, and we still work together. But it is a very, very funny one because, like, honestly, I think he saw just quite how intense I was.
Right.
And, like, discipline is everything. And mental discipline is everything. And I find it so funny with these people who always kind of oscillate on, like, oh, my Whoop score or my Aura sleep score. And it's like, it's easy to be disciplined when you're super well rested and you've had the perfect night's sleep. Try being well disciplined when you've had next to no sleep and when you're tired as shit. And you lack ghrelin, which is the kind of resistance chemical in your body. When you have a lot of ghrelin, you're able to resist food.
Right.
And when you don't, which is when you're tired, you don't. That's when fucking resistance comes in. When mental discipline comes in. It's like I never, ever train with headphones on because it's easy to train with headphones on.
It's too stimulating.
Yeah, I want to train and I want to hear the pain in my own breath.
Yeah.
That's when you really feel the pain.
The people listening to this right now training like, fuck.
Fuck, this guy needs a therapist.
Or they need to stop working out right now and turn this off.
Drinking was the biggest unlock for me.
Not drinking anymore.
Not drinking is just an absolute game changer.
Right.
Like, unbelievable. I was drinking far too much. And I made the decision. My mother's got MS, and she used to have 12 relapses a year, and then she stopped drinking, and she basically had one every 18 months. Amazing difference. So I stopped drinking.
Can you explain real quick what MS is for people that don't know?
Oh, it's multiple sclerosis. It's like a degenerative bone condition, which means you basically most often end up in a wheelchair in a certain amount of time. My mother was told that she'd be in a wheelchair within a 5-year period, 15 years ago. Now she walks a marathon every weekend with me and is a Pilates instructor and is fit as anything.
Incredible.
Unbelievable woman. And I don't, I find money quite an interesting topic and people kind of don't talk about it. Like, I don't spend any money on myself. I spend my money on my mother. She's never asked for anything, and there's no amount of money I would not spend on her, which she definitely uses in Chanel.
She takes advantage.
Honestly,
as she should.
Unbelievable. But yeah, she's amazing. And I think that's another thing that's really important is a lot of people say, like, you've got to do it for yourself.
Right.
Do it for yourself. Absolute bullshit. When I started, I had this ferocious, I have to win because I have to protect my family.
Right.
My family mean everything to me. And if you fuck with my work, you fuck with my family. And then I'm going to fucking be pissed. So there is nothing that I will not do to win because it means protecting and looking after my family.
Right.
And you need that intensity. And again, there's a really interesting study, which is the post-baby effect for entrepreneurs. Yep. And you are significantly more likely to be successful as an entrepreneur post having a baby because there's no chance for you to fail. I mean, if you fail, you are really in shit. If you're 21 and 22 and fail, you're probably going to go and work at another tech company and you'll be fine. But losing the ability or the option of failing drives so much success.
Has that been the biggest driver for you, your mum and your family?
Yeah. I mean, my grandfather taught me something. He was the manager of a hotel. Yeah. And he taught me something amazing, which I think about often. As manager of a hotel, I sat there when I was 6 or 7 and he said, Harry, it's not what you say, it's not what you do, but it's how you make people feel. And when they come into my hotel, they have to feel like it's a home, just like their real home. Yeah. And I think very much the same when I sit with interview guests or when I sit with founders. It's not what I say, it's not what I do, but it's how I make them feel. Right. And I really think deeply about that. And I love my grandpa very much for that. And, a brilliant man in many respects, but I saw him lose everything. Saw him lose his house, my grandmother's house. And, when you are standing on the street with bailiffs outside your house, bailiffs are people who take the home for the bank, and they repossess your house, and your family is on the street with nothing. They give you 20 minutes to leave, and you can take your possessions in a plastic bag, and what doesn't fit, they get to keep. When you see that, it gives you a burning ferocity that only that can give you. Don't fuck with a child who's been through that. Yeah. That was a pretty big thing for me. I often ask the question of, what are you running from and what are you running towards? And I think what I'm running from is that, seeing the pain in my mother, seeing the pain in my family's eyes of losing that home and losing everything and feeling, people say, I have so many guests on the show say, money really doesn't make you happy. No. You fucking have none of it. And then tell me that. Yeah. It is horrible. And the real pain and the real struggle is in the mortgage. It's in the heating bill. And I am forever running from being that little boy who was so hurt by seeing their family go through that. And that drives me a lot. And I'm glad that it still does. I'm super lucky now. I'm not quite in that same wealth bracket. Yeah. But I still feel it. Yeah. And I still have that mindset. And I think it's really important.
Yeah, you've talked about, those rejections, whether it's starting 20 VC or these, objectively horrible things that have happened to you, being bullied and being so candidly so fat.
Not just fat, so fat.
Super fat. That, opportunity arrives after a loss, and that by experiencing these things, it's actually been, in a way, it's helped harden you.
Yeah. It goes back to a really important one. It's like, it's not that you have hardship, it's how you respond to hardship. That's everything. When I have bulimia, it's so interesting. I don't think I would have my life at all if I didn't have bulimia. What? I had bulimia and I was kicked out of this school, and because I was kicked out of this school, I had to go to this other school where they only had 2 hours of lessons a day. And because I only had 2 hours of lessons a day, I was like, well, I love venture capital still. I have all of this free time. Why don't I start that podcast that I've been wanting to start? I don't think I would have started it had I not had that. The greatest challenges can lead to the greatest opportunities if you let them.
Can I ask you, if you're trying to run a successful business, you need to have the right tools. The Biography podcast is presented by Ro, the all-in-one banking platform for startups. Thousands of startups like Perplexity, Product Hunt, and more use Ro to power their business. You get everything you need to manage your startup's cash. Fast banking setup, cards with up to 2% cash back, and yield that turns extra cash into extra runway. Everything you don't want to think about in the early days of starting your company, but you need to have to launch, Ro covers for you. But what I and many other founders really love about Ro is their team. They are an A+ organization. Harry and I have talked about the importance of caring deeply about what you do. And I've met a lot of the team at Ro, and they are obsessed with helping founders like you disrupt the status quo, and they will go above and beyond to help you do so. And exclusively for Biography Podcast listeners and viewers, you'll get a $1,500 statement credit, plus a ton of exclusive perks when you manage your company's cash with Row. To learn more, visit rho.co/biography. Terms and conditions apply. Row is a fintech, not a bank. Checking and card services provided by Webster Bank. Member FDIC. See rewards terms for details. Quick quotes, or just say a couple of quotes from people in your life. One of them was going to be the one from your grandfather, but there's another one which I think translates nicely to what we just talked about. And Shaquille Khan has told you, everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about, so be kind. Can you tell me what that means to you?
When someone is unreasonably different from how you thought, most often it has nothing to do with you. And actually, everyone is fucked up in their own way. We've all got cracks and we've all got our insecurities and flaws. And actually give people more patience than one would initially give them.
Right.
Because you have no idea what they're going through.
Yeah, I mean, even you, like, when you started 20VC, you know, if you've just had all these rejections and you've just gone through this horrible, you know, weight loss and it seems like you're just a kid starting a podcast. Like, oh, who cares? But there's a lot more behind that meets the surface.
100%.
There's another one here from Marc Evans where he's told you you're never wrong to do the right thing.
Yeah. That's one of the most helpful, I think. I think about that a lot. I also always ask myself the question, would I be proud for my actions to be on the front page of the New York Times? And if I wasn't proud of it being on the front page of the New York Times, do not do it.
Yeah.
The most important thing is your reputation, and it is built over decades and lost in seconds. And trust is everything. And I very, very much care about doing the honorable and right thing in everything that I do. And asking that clarifying question, would I be proud to have this published in the front page of the New York Times? If it's a don't fucking do it. Right. Very simple. Again, clarity drives outcomes.
If you ask that question, it's very clear. If you're doubting it, probably shouldn't do it.
Totally.
Yeah. Are these things that come back to investing or hiring or who you spend time with as well, where you think about these sort of maxims and ideas that you've been told when you're maybe giving feedback to someone or making an investment? Like, do you
100%.
Yeah.
Like giving feedback to someone, you never know what they're going through.
Right.
Be kind. Thinking about the weight of your words. Words can carry with someone for years. Be very deliberate around the words that you choose, because the impact of them can be very profound.
Right.
I really think about that a lot. The job of a leader is to be a conductor. And a conductor understands that you have a cellist and a violinist and a saxophonist and a drummer, and they all sound a little bit different and they all play a little bit different. And my job is to understand each of their nuances and bring them together to play beautifully together, but also to make sure that I know what makes each of them tick.
Right.
And this idea of a homogenous culture is bullshit. I need to know how each of my players tick and what will make them play well together. I think we also spend far too much time on culture. Culture is, for me, winning. And people are fundamentally driven by development and growth, personal and professional. That is the number one driver of human happiness. If people feel like they are growing personally or professionally, number one driver of human happiness. That happens in companies that win.
Right.
Very rarely do you have a company that loses. Day after day, you are beaten shamelessly in every deal, and you have a happy culture. No, not at all. You know what culture wins, actually? Revolut. Revolut does not have a culture. It wins. And that's all that fucking matters. And people see that they're learning, they're growing, they're making money. That, by the way, getting social capital because they're at a company that's winning and their family's like, oh, wow.
Right.
Winning is contagious. And one of the biggest challenges with a lot of people is they've never won. And so they don't know how good it feels to win.
Well, I mean, you never won for a period of time as well. What was that first moment like when you started to win, or where it felt like you unlocked that experience?
When I signed my first sponsor for the show, they paid me $25,000 and they paid upfront in a wire transfer. And I went from having $500 to $25,500. And I was 19,
right,
18, whatever I was. Wow. That felt like I was
still winning. Chasing that high.
Yeah, that was like, of all the money that I made, that was like, that was the one I remember.
That's huge. If winning is so important and culture actually doesn't really matter, you've talked about walking or doing a marathon before every hire and every investment. What does that do to unlock the decision whether you hire someone or not?
It's like the Tokyo test, my friend.
Okay.
The Tokyo,
I don't know.
The Tokyo test is you have to fly to Tokyo with them. And on that flight, you have to be engaged and entertained enough for the entire flight.
Right.
You have to be like happy to take the flight with them.
Right.
Quite a tough thing to do, actually. And so, the marathon is a very wonderful thing in two different ways. One, I walk a marathon every weekend with my mother because by the time that you hit 18, you've spent something like 92% of the time you will do with your parents. Dramatically tails off from there. And I thought, well, that's bullshit. I can change anything. So let's change how much time I will have with my mother moving forwards. And that's how I do it. And I've really inflected that in a great way, I think. So I love that. And then second, why do I do it for hires, for investments? Because after an amount of time, the facade drops. You can only uphold that persona for an hour, for 2 hours, for 3 hours, for 4 hours. You're going to be walking for 6.5. So I want to get to the stage of conversation where conversation runs out. You know what you then ask? If you were to write a book, what would the book be called? Okay, if you were with a lion in a cage or a shark in a pool,
right,
which would you rather? Would you rather put your hand in a blender or have your head grated with a cheese grater? It's deliberately ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you actually learn a shitload about someone when all rationale is lost. And that is where you get true magic.
Yeah.
And so I want to get to that point.
Right. And you have to just go through the sludge of all the other questions.
The bullshit questions. Yeah.
What's your answer to those questions?
To the bullshit questions or to the...
No, to the blender one.
Oh my God. The hand in the blender versus head with the grater is a tough one. Hand in a blender.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Head with a cheese grater, dude.
Yeah, they both sound horrible.
Not good.
Have there been any answers to those questions? Because I'm guessing you've got a pretty good sample size now of answers to them. Have there been any questions that have broken your frame in those moments, or answers to your question that have broken your frame in that moment? Or on those walks that have broken your frame?
I think the one most arresting question that I had, which, I think about a lot, actually. Chris Williamson is very
From Modern Wisdom.
Yeah. I think it was at a Jordan Peterson event, and someone said this, and he found it arresting, and it really stuck with me. The statement was, the depths of my consciousness I feel so very deeply. Is it a blessing or a curse? And, I often think about that. Everything I feel incredibly intensely. I pretend like I don't because I can't show the world quite how much I feel.
Right.
But I feel everything so much. And I'm not quite sure if that's an incredible blessing because it drives me to be who I am, or it's a curse because it drives me to be constantly hurting myself. Not sure.
Maybe a bit of both.
So my reflection on that is no one has truly arrested my own questions other than this one, which I think about a lot.
Why? When?
Because I don't know the answer to it.
Okay.
And maybe it's because there isn't an answer to it.
Right.
Again, like one of the biggest realizations I have with time is just nuance, which is I used to in my youth, I feel like
you're a boomer.
Great Gatsby. But it's like, I used to be much more black and white. And the truth is very few things in life are black and white.
Right.
You are not Paul Graham's tweet where it pissed me off. It was black. You are never completely wrong to leave university. It depends.
Right.
It depends. I hate that because it's the most, in a podcast you want. But actually nuance is most often important to apply.
In everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually.
That's beautiful. I think that's maybe a great place to leave it. I want to ask you if there's anything I haven't asked you yet, or anything you think is really important still to talk about.
The one question that I would add to your roster,
please,
and I've added it recently, which is, what trait do you have that you're both most ashamed of, but also slightly proud of?
Right.
The reason you should ask it, and the reason people should ask it, is because if you ask people about a trait that they like, they feel happy and they feel a connection to you. And so as an interviewer, you always want to build on the connection.
Right, it's
with
how
the
they
guest.
feel.
Yeah. So that's kind of the why. And it generally leads to the ashamed is an interesting one because it adds this like element of tension of like, that's
Don't want to talk about that necessarily.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think mine would be kind of the ability to become addicted to things.
Yeah.
It's made me, I hope, unbelievably good at what I do, but it's also made me, bulimic and alcoholic and presented me with challenges.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful to have an addictive mind, but it's one that
It's a blessing and a curse.
it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. Is that still what you struggle with the most right now?
Oh no, I struggle with now my inferiority complex of us not moving fast enough, us not achieving enough, and then tempering that with realizing you're working with other humans who just will not be as fucking ferocious as you are, and realizing that you have to permanently play the balance a little bit.
That's Harry. That's incredible. Thank you so much for coming.
Dude, it's lovely to do this with you. Thank you.
That was awesome.